efficiency.
If you are a master deceiver, a master spy, a master operator, and the people who are around you are not suspicious of you being just that, it means that that is proof itself that you're a master of what you do.
Wow.
You don't give any indication. A master spy gives absolutely no indication at all that he or she is a spy. Otherwise, you fail the test of being a spy if you arouse suspicion.
Pam, co-author of Trojan Horse. I just mentioned, did you hear me just mention you?
Yes, I did.
Right on. Did I get you right?
Yeah. I caught the tail end of his interview, and I just really heard the guest, defending his position. And like you said, I can understand. It's your mom, But at the same time, it is important that we not make any white person exempt, even a relative or anything. You don't have to do it publicly if you don't want to. That's your option. But it's a legitimate connection because we're trying to figure this thing out. And I don't think anybody's trying to dog his mom out. But I can understand he's going to be, of course, he's not going to want to say anything negative about his mother. So, but I think it's time for black people. And Renethia Tate said it in her book, Pieces of a Puzzle. And I would suggest people get that book because it says a lot of really interesting things. And she said we have to stop keeping white people's secrets. And even if it's your mother, even if it's somebody that you're close to, black people spend a lot of time keeping white people's secrets. And, white people are doing the same thing collectively over and over again. So black people know to some degree what they're doing, but we don't talk about it. We don't share it with our children. We keep the secrets.
I would love to have her as a guest on the program. Pam, Super Investor, got me her book, and I've been calling and I emailed, but I haven't been able to track her down. If anyone out there, has access, it would be great to have her on the program so we could chat about her book. See if she thinks, it's relevant and should be discussed if a non-white person has a white parent.
Mm-hmm. I tried to contact her too, send an email. I tried to phone. I think it was a different number, disconnected. I don't know. So I'm so tempted to pretend to be her. Read the book and come on and pretend, change my voice or something, because I think the book is so, I haven't finished it, but it's so interesting. And what's interesting is the conclusions that she did using the code. And I haven't gotten the hang of the code. So anybody that can try to write and try to stick to the code, I'm impressed by. So I really would suggest the book. But I did have a question for the audience and for you. How can black people wage war? And let's be for real, we're in a war. When you have no emotional distance from your enemy.
Wow. I guess for clarification for listeners, if they want to respond, when you say emotional distance, what do you mean?
I'll give you an example. For example, when you look at black people in the history of white people, say in the South, after, say, slavery, or even during slavery, black people lived in the houses, same houses. Black people nursed white babies. Black people cooked white people's food. White people would say you're just like a member of the family. But guess what? Let that black person step out of line, out of the boundaries of what a black person was supposed to say and do, and that white family, that so-called white pseudo-family members, would treat them the same way they would treat a stranger. So what I'm saying is white people have perfected the art of being able to be intimate with you in a physical space, being able to be sexually intimate with you, but maintain that emotional distance, because that's the only way that you can mistreat someone and be close to them at the same time, is you have to have some emotional distance. And I think it's because they did one thing that people of color do not do. White people transform their enemies into something less than human. People of color are constantly talking about we're all human. And you can't do it if you're sleeping with white people. You can't do it if your mother or father is a white person. You have no emotional distance, so you cannot wage war. You cannot be objective. And so I think that, like you said, white people are already uncomfortable with being split. They're comfortable with that. They master it. They can be sleeping with a black person and still practice racism against that black person. So I just mean emotional distance is you have to have a psychological distance from your enemy. That's why during war, the army or military will train the soldiers to see the enemy as gooks. Because otherwise, if they didn't do that, how do you convince somebody to kill a total stranger that they see as fully human as themselves? So.
My response would be you cultivate an emotional distance from white people, and you do that at all costs, even meaning that you distance yourself emotionally from non-white people who are emotionally vested in white people, which, I mean, you really have to, it's almost like Dr. Africa. I know just as she said, she felt like he didn't really want to be here. He wasn't really vested. I felt like he was just down to business. Like he wasn't, this is my black family and Gus, my brother. He wasn't really on that. Just like, let's roll. This is what I have to say. I studied and I have no problem with that. Like, let's just get down to brass tacks and do what we got to do and not be all into the brother and sister and cousin and all that. Like just being very business-minded about approaching racism, white supremacy. And a part of the business strategy of racism, white supremacy is that we are in total opposition to white people. The problem is white people, and they're not friends, they're not pals, they're not buddies, they're not accomplices, they're not comrades, they're not allies, none of that. They are enemies, period, nothing else. And that's the mindset that we have 24/7, 10 days a year, 365 days a year. That's the attitude that we have about white people, that, they are enemies. They're not friends. Any and every white person, no exceptions. And I think cultivating a mentality in that manner, I think that will get us down the right road. I think that will break up that white identification. That goes hand in hand with that emotional attachment. Being white identified produces that emotional investment in white people. So I think just speaking about white people in those terms, clearly identifying them as the problem, speaking of them as the enemy, not being friends with them, not hanging out with them in a leisurely manner, being serious when you speak with them, just total mindset of warfare in dealing with white people. I think just really making an effort to codify how we view and deal with white people, and the non-white people who are emotionally invested in white people, they become casualties, as Dr. Africa said. Just very serious about that, and really cultivating an environment where people who are emotionally invested in white people are not comfortable. I'm very cool with that. I think that is a big step about counter-racism. You're not trying to be friends with everybody. You're not trying to make everybody feel good. You're trying to solve a problem. And part of solving this problem means that the non-white people who are emotionally invested in white people, you are a casualty. You're going to slow things down. And I'm very cool with it. Not being mistreating them, not being violent with them, but just making it an environment where they are not comfortable, where their mother is maybe put under scrutiny, or their sexual partner, or any other white friend or pal that they got. That white person is put under scrutiny so that they don't feel comfortable about it. Or even those sorts of relationships are constantly being analyzed, spoken against because they're incorrect. And I mean the sexual relationships with white people. I think that's how we can start to cultivate it. And I would say with regards to what you said about dehumanizing, Daryl Bain, when he was on the program yesterday, white guy who wrote a fictional book about a virus killing all black people, he has tons of images of black people as gold-toothed, stealing, looting rapists in a book that's supposed to be against racism. He has all these images of black people trying to rape white women, wearing gold teeth, talking crazy, slang, criminals. And he said that the stereotyping, he conceded there was too much. He probably went overboard. He shouldn't have done it. And I said, why does it have to be there at all? It shouldn't be there at all if we're working against racism. The fact that you got all these, standard racist images in a book that's supposed to be against racism, that seems to be quite a contradiction. And he said, I couldn't tell this story without those stereotypes. And I asked him why. And he really didn't answer the question. And I thought about it. In the book, I think he is the main character. The main character is a former military man. The author, he was in the military. He did 2 terms in Vietnam. And he said on the program yesterday, he talked about how the main character, he wrote in some of his own life episodes into what happens to the main character. But the main character saves a white woman from being raped. He kills 2 black males. And he describes it in detail how he kills these 2 black males. And I said, you got to have these racist, white supremacist images of the inhumane, savage, gold-toothed, partying, looting, raping black beast. You got to have these images so he can feel justified in slaughtering them. You got to have that. If you don't put that in, then, you're a devil. You're just going out and killing people for no reason. But if they're, trying to rape a white woman and looting, then it's okay to go out and blow their brains out, which is what happens in the book. So
I didn't know that show was on yesterday.
It's in the archives. You're good.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And he might be back. He emailed me. I'll read the email that he wrote me later, but he might be back to talk about his other book. But I just wanted to share. I've been thinking about that program because I thought it was so funny. He called us coloreds. He said it repeatedly during the program. At any rate, that's my response to your question. I hope it was clear.